Okay, so let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into the world of AI voice assistants.
Yep. Specifically looking at three big ones: Perplexity AI, ChatGPT AVM, and Gemini Live.
Right. Our sources give us a pretty good snapshot of what these tools are good at, when you actually talk to them.
And also where they maybe fall short and like the best ways you might actually use their voice features.
Exactly. Think of this as your quick guide to understanding the AI voice landscape right now, heading towards 2025.
And it's kind of wild how fast these voice tools are becoming, well, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sources we looked at project something like over 8 billion voice assistants globally by next year.
Wow, 8 billion. That's more than the number of people on the planet.
Exactly. It really shows how much we're leaning into just, talking to our tech, using our natural voice to connect with the digital world.
Relying on some pretty sophisticated speech recognition and language understanding tech, yeah.
Totally. And each one we're looking at today has its own kind of distinct voice, its own capability profile. They're tailored for different things.
Okay, so let's start with Perplexity AI. The sources seem to frame it less like a general chatbot and more like an AI search engine, but optimized for voice.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Its main strength is really getting you fast, fact-based info pulled directly from the web.
Right, it does real-time searches, gets current data.
And critically, it often gives you citations for its answers, which is super helpful for voice, right? Because you want quick, verifiable facts without having to, pull out your phone and double-check sources visually.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So one user mentioned it was great for simple voice commands like setting reminders, managing calendar stuff, but also could handle slightly more complex things like finding a restaurant, checking its reviews, and trying to book it, all just by voice.
The booking part is tricky, though.
Yeah, the limitation they hit, at least on mobile, was that Perplexity didn't have that deep calendar integration yet.
Right.
So it kind of hit a wall there.
Right, and that brings up integration, which is, a big advantage for something like Gemini. It's baked right into the whole Google ecosystem.
Ah, okay. And Gemini's strength is multimodal. Right. That's what the sources highlight.
Exactly. Multimodal, meaning you can interact using voice and other things like images or maybe even other audio simultaneously.
So wait, you could be talking to it, but also point your phone camera at something, and it gets both.
Precisely. It understands what you're seeing and what you're saying all at once. And Gemini, especially the more advanced versions, can handle a huge amount of information as context. Think processing entire books or really long conversations you've had with it.
Wow, so that makes it pretty powerful for complex voice tasks.
Yeah.
Where it needs to remember a lot or understand tons of data you feed it.
Definitely.
Okay, so then there's ChatGPT, which uses its advanced voice model, the AVM.
Yeah.
What's its angle?
Well, the sources really point to its strength in content generation, creativity, and that voice model. It's praised for sounding incredibly realistic, almost uncannily human sometimes.
Which makes it good for, voice demos, maybe? Or brainstorming sessions where that natural sound really matters.
Exactly that. ChatGPT seems better at maintaining a deeper, more, human-like conversational flow. It's got that creative spark, maybe Perplexity lacks, because Perplexity is so focused on just the facts.
Okay, got it. So to recap the good, Perplexity for fast, fact-checked voice search, ChatGPT AVM for that super realistic voice and creative chat, and Gemini for the multimodal stuff and handling deep context, especially in the Google world.
Sounds about right. That's the positive spin.
Right. Now for the, let's call it the bad and the ugly, particularly around these voice interfaces, what are the big concerns?
Well, the ugly side, and this really touches all of them, is privacy and security. It's inherent, isn't it?
I guess so.
Because they need to listen for that wake word, hey, Google, Alexa, whatever. There's always that underlying concern about what else they might be hearing or potentially recording, even unintentionally, just in the background noise.
And even if they say they don't store the raw audio all the time without you agreeing, the transcripts of conversations often are kept, right?
And that text data alone, just from how you talk, the nuances, the topics you bring up via voice, that can reveal a lot of sensitive stuff.
Like what?
Well, potentially things about your health, your emotional state, maybe even socioeconomic details, just inferred from your voice and words.
That's unsettling.
And then there's this really specific vulnerability called dolphin attack. Have you heard about this?
No, what's that?
It's basically a way to embed audio commands that are inaudible to the human ear, into things like music or just background noise.
Inaudible commands, so you wouldn't even hear them.
Exactly. And they could potentially trick the assistant into doing things, dialing numbers, opening websites, making purchases, maybe without you having a clue.
Okay, that's genuinely concerning. Wow.
Yep.
Plus, you've got the whole issue of just information being inferred from your voice characteristics themselves, right?
Yeah, and also the potential for voice commands maybe not being properly encrypted when sent over the network, making them vulnerable to interception.
Yeah, and a lot of simple tasks probably don't have, like, a secondary voice check, do they? So if someone could mimic your voice.
Potentially, yeah. It really highlights the need for strong security, like, encrypting that voice data properly.
What else? Any other downsides?
Well, the sources also mention ongoing issues with accuracy, the hallucinations problem, where the AI can just confidently state something that's completely wrong.
Right, that's still a thing across the board.
Yeah, and with platforms like Gemini, by default, they don't always give you sources for their spoken answers.
Yeah, so unlike Perplexity.
Right, which makes it harder to quickly verify what you're hearing via voice compared to just glancing at sources on a search results page.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does it all mean for us? The sources show these AI voice assistants are, like you said, exploding, almost set to outnumber people globally.
Yeah, becoming truly ubiquitous.
Perplexity looks great for quick, fact-checked voice info from the web. GPT-AVM has that amazingly real voice and is good for creative stuff.
And Gemini, deeply tied into Google, shines with its multimodal input and handling lots of context through voice.
But, and it's a big but, they all come with these significant concerns. Privacy is huge. The always-on listening potential. The personal data inferred from your voice.
And even the risk of being manipulated by hidden audio commands is quite a lot to think about.
It really is. Which sort of leads to the big question for you listening right now. As these tools get more powerful, more integrated into your life, especially through voice, how do you personally weigh that? How do you balance the convenience, the sheer capability they offer against those privacy risks we just talked about?
Yeah, it's a trade-off everyone needs to consider carefully.